What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp of Wrestling Inc. and the Wrestling Inc. podcast here with a legend of both mixed martial arts and professional wrestling, UFC Hall of Famer Dan Severn. Dan, how are you?
Well, I'm fantastic there, Sean.
So you have a huge show coming up next Sunday. Well, it'll be this Sunday by the time people hear this. URFight, and you guys are attacking a lot of different demographics with this show. I mean, every demographic.
Well, what I'll say about this is that I'm just one of the pieces of the puzzle that's coming together with this. It's a brand new network, internet network known as the URShow.tv, and to my knowledge, there has never been a show like this in the sense that you are showcasing four different, call it disciplines, call it entertainment products, whatever you want to call it, but you got four different things. You got, I would have said a 3-week circus, but you got a 4-week circus taking place. And it's a lot of moving parts, and I'm sure some people are going to like some aspects and may not like other aspects. It just all depends on what you're into, and the fact that there's going to be a professional boxing match with Roy Jones Jr. versus basically a fan. But, it's not just a fan. Obviously, it was a fan who had to have credentials, who had to pass the okay of the Arizona State Athletic Commission as well. And then you've got, a submission grapple match. You got Michael Bisbane going up against Chael Sonnen. You've got a professional match, Rey Mysterio going up against Kurt Angle, and then you got the mixed martial arts match, which is taking out myself. So, and there's still an undercard on top of that. So if there's just 4 matches, there's actually an entire undercard that will be showcased as well. And those are all mixed martial arts matches.
A lot of times on non-UFC shows or really any type of combat sports, you have one type of interesting matchup, and then the rest is filler. You all have several interesting matchups.
Well, you might have people that like professional stuff. You might have people that like boxing. You might have people that like mixed martial arts or submission grappling. Like I said, there's 4 different types of things. Again, I'll just say this: you've got a network that's thinking outside the box. How many different demographics can we appeal to?
Indeed, and you're facing Tank Abbott. You were originally scheduled to face Ken Shamrock, but that obviously had to be changed for obvious reasons. How did that change your preference?
No, Sean. What are those obvious reasons?
Well, he's facing a possible drug suspension right now, but he had that interesting fight against Hoist Gracie, which I'd like to ask you about. Did you watch that fight, and how did you feel about that fight and how it went down?
That's why I kind of pursued this route of questioning there. So it's the match stunk, and in a lot of different ways. And then him crying foul, and which did he get neat? Well, yeah, the camera shows pretty good aspect there, but Sean, you're a man that has some testicles there to you, so you've been probably at need or something like that at some point in time. When that happens to you, how quickly does it take for you to respond and maybe drop to a knee or something at that point in time?
Usually immediately, but sometimes you get those that land in your stomach. You know what I mean?
Well, I question the delayed reaction.
Here's something.
There's a lot of things I question about the match.
One of the things I questioned: how did the Athletic Commission allow Hoist Gracie to go out there without his hands wrapped? How was that a thing that he was allowed to do?
Without his hands wrapped. I mean, he was wearing MMA gloves, I thought.
Yeah, but he like most athletic commissions will mandate now that you have to have your hands wrapped underneath that with tape.
I'll dispute that to you because I do not like having my hands wrapped. And the two times that I've ever had my hands wrapped, and because the athletic commission was really impressing upon that they have to follow these rules, I go, okay, fine. What's the bare bones minimum? And basically, it was like they said, well, one piece of gauze and one piece of tape. I go, fine. Literally, it was falling off as I was sliding the glove on. And the commissioner that was actually overseeing it goes, so well, that's like a deal. I go, I don't want to tape in the first place, but I'm appeasing your rule.
Also, I want to get your thoughts on the Kimbo Slice versus Dada 5000 fight. And I mean, you're well, make no bones, you're no spring chicken, but you had to be looking at that saying, you know what, I could beat all four guys in the main and co-main event. I have to say, Dada 5000 is, and you know, I hate what happened to him after the fight. But here's the way I look at it. He's the worst fighter I've ever seen.
Well, it was, wow,
He technically died in the cage, and because Kimbo Slice failed a drug test, he technically, his heart stopped in the cage, and he still didn't lose the fight. That tells you what kind of a fight that was.
Wow. That's quite a perspective to put that one into. So I did watch that match as well, and it was, I actually thought it was rather comical. Again, I hate to say that with what has happened to Dada 5000. Out of curiosity, what is his real name? I mean, Dada 5000 obviously was not his real name, so I don't know what his real name is. But I just kept thinking, who came up with Dada 5000? What does Dada 5000 even mean? But neither here nor there. I thought the way that the match should have finished is one of the greatest, because they're so both athletes were so tired. The only thing that was holding them up really was the cage wall. Had that cage wall that match was finished earlier.
Yeah.
I think that the way it should have finished is they both were so tired they should have been out in the middle, both the big old barnyard wild swings at each other, miss each other completely, spin, fall down. That big Joshua stepped up there and called the match no contest. That's the way it should have finished.
Now, as we mentioned, your face
in the wacky world of professional wrestling, that's the way it would have finished.
Yeah, as we mentioned, you're facing Tank Abbott, and you were originally scheduled to face Ken Shamrock. Does that change your preparation at all? Because I mean, they're way different fighters.
It did, and am I happy about it? Not at all. I had retired from mixed martial arts back in January 2013. I retired with a clause, though. I simply said, if one of these three then stepped up to plate, it was my pedicalist, Mark Coleman, Ken Shamrock, Hoist Grayson. If I could get one more hurrah with each one of those guys, I'm done. I have no axe to grind with anybody else. I don't want to go against any of the young competitors because I know my place on the food chain. I'm not that young guy anymore. I probably, it can both fall in that category of being 50 or older as well. So they are AARP candidates with that candidate. They are senior citizens, technically. Once you hit 50, boom, you're classified as a senior citizen in most places. So it's ironic that, I will definitely be the senior statesman, going out there. But I'm not real happy about how things have gone down. Because I was contacted basically back in the middle of the month of November. Would you be interested in another match with Ken Shamrock? I simply just told the company, well, you have my interest. I said, but you better get him under contract. ASAP. And
So
the fact that he never was under contract, and the fact that he found out at the last second, I'm not a happy camper. I've wasted a lot of my time preparing for one person. So it's a long drawn out way of saying, sure, it has affected my match, and now it's going to affect my game plan.
How were you informed that Ken Shamrock wouldn't be fighting anymore, and what reason were you given?
Just basically just the company, the UR Show Network company. They contacted me for the Ken is injured now.
That's interesting because I don't know how he could have really physically been that injured from that.
Well, I mean, you saw him in the ring. He complained quite a bit, crying foul and stuff like this, and he walked out on his own aspects, never complained of anything. I was thinking, okay, well.
So
what kind of comical?
Go ahead. So why did you end up leaving WWE?
I probably will never learn know the true reason behind it. I chalked it up to creative differences. Maybe to elaborate a little more about that is that, as a cycle of a professional wrestler, you will either be the good guy, the baby face, or the bad guy, the heel. It's just a cycle. When I first came out there, I was actually known as a baby face. I don't know now since baby face. I actually wore the same types of outfits I wore when I was competing in mixed martial arts, or I should say, actually tell people no holds barred, because your listeners, most people are familiar with mixed martial arts, but that's what the product is today. But the predecessor to it started back in 1992. There was NHP, otherwise known as no holds barred. So I've been involved in both industries. Actually, I was wrong on that. The year that's 1994 with mixed martial arts. Because I always tell people I've been an amateur wrestler. I started that in 1969. I've been a professional wrestler. I started that as of the 1992 Olympics, and I'm a cage fighter as of 1994. So I've been, when you start adding those dates there, Sean, when were you born?
When was I born? 1985.
Yep. So it's just my way of saying that I won my first national title in 1972. So it's like I have, in the world of mixed martial arts, there's only 4 people in the world that have 100 matches. I'm one of the 4. There's only 3 people in the world that have over 100 victories. I'm one of those 3. And the ironic part is I have faced the other 3. I have defeated the other 3. And the closest one to my age was 15 years my junior. So in my opinion, I'm in a category all by myself. I'm lifetime chemical free. I take great pride in saying that, because I do a lot of speaker engagement with kids, junior high, younger, elementary, high school, and on a collegiate basis. I talk about the importance of education. For a guy that has a ring named the Beast, of which I did not make up that name, it was bestowed upon me by the legendary football player Jim Brown. He was one of the play-by-play commentators for the Ultimate Fighting Championships for probably, 5, 6 different shows. And when he first met me, I wore glasses for distance. I wore a sports jacket and a tie. The very first press conference, it wasn't a weigh-in, it was called a press conference because there was no weight. Again, that's where a lot of the listeners, they don't know what no holds barred versus mixed martial arts. Mixed martial arts has 37 rules. It has weight classes. It has time periods. Athletes wear gloves. You fight one man in a given evening. That's basically in a nutshell. That no holds barred era, there were only 2 rules that the athletes had to abide by. Do not bite your opponent. Do not fit fingers in their eye sockets. So otherwise known as eye gouging. End of the rules. End of the rules. Let your mind go wild. There's a whole lot of other things you can do without ever violating those 2 rules. And my very first UFC, I went into, my guarantee to walk into that cage was $1,000. And in the little fine print at the bottom of the contract, it stated, in the event of your accidental death, I think a key, accidental, all I got to worry about is not sticking a finger in their eye or biting them. There's a whole lot of other ways I think I could take a man's life without ever violating them 2 rules. And,
yeah.
So there you have it. That's the world of distance. So I would tell people that on that Friday night, not a weigh-in, you went to a press conference. And ironically, I'm the only guy that showed up in a sports jacket and tie. Actually, that's not true. The very first one I went to was UFC number 4, and Ron Van Cleef and I were the only 2 people that showed up with sports jackets and ties. We sat beside each other. Everyone else were like muscle guard, tank tops, lift up shirts, stuff like this. And we're looking like someone's insurance agent or something like that. and then they pull out a bingo ball machine that has 8 balls with 8 names on them. So as it spins it around, first name comes up. That's number one guy. Spin that thing again. There's number two guy. Maybe a white space is there. There's a Shamrock name there. There's a, just you found out less than 24 hours before who your first opponent is. Now the reality is, now that you're prepared for that one person, the night of the show, you're trying to watch who might be match number 2. Who possibly might be coming from the other side of the bracket? That's going to be match number 3. To do 3 matches one night. Well, Sean, you're speaking to the only Triple Crown champion in the UFC's no holds barred era. And
I remember that.
And since it's against the law to do now, I'm in. So once again, I feel like I'm in a category all by myself.
Another thing that put you in a category all by yourself, and before I got into writing and covering MMA and wrestling, I trained in both pro wrestling and MMA, and one of the things that the early influences on doing that is I remember seeing you in the cage, and you had a UFC title and an NWA title, and it blew my mind. I didn't know that somebody, back then I was, a kid, I didn't know that somebody could do both of those things, and I was like, wow, he can do both of those things.
But I thought Brock Lesnar was the only person that has done this. I say that facetiously because I'm thinking, I did it almost 20 years before him.
Yeah, are you surprised that more people haven't done it?
No, there's when you look at this pure fact of weight class by weight class, if you were to look at the top 10 guys per weight class, what is their true roots? Where did they come from? And you'll see probably 8 or 9 out of the top 10 guys, their background, they originated from amateur wrestling. Now, again, I'll be a little bit biased about this because obviously that's my background. But if you take a high-level amateur wrestler, I coached at Arizona State, I coached at Michigan State, I coached for the Michigan Wrestling Club, as I said, the teacher at 71. I used to referee matches, challenge matches for weight classes. I'd had 2 athletes so closely skilled against each other that they negated each other. They could not score upon each other, and you could see the levels of frustration that there was such about that these wrestlers also they would break into fisticuffs. And I'm thinking, and now with this no holds barred, breaks ground in the United States, I'm thinking it's a no-brainer for a wrestler just to take people down, and then when people pull guard and stuff like this, like, here, guard this. When you look at the pure stats of 99.9% of all these matches will end up underground, and they're going to be finished one of 3 ways. Ground and pound is still number 1. Very barbaric. Ball up your fist, must strike a fist, and bludgeon your opponent somewhere around that head, neck, and face region. Number 2 is a chokehold, whether it be a scarf choke, rear naked choke, triangle choke. A choke is a choke. Number 3, an armbar. Those are your top 3. I've always been a stats guy, just in the sense that I've taught wrestling. So if these are my top 3 ways that I have to watch out for offensive fades, and these are the top 2 things I need to work at defensively as well. But I'm going off into different tangents here, RJ.
Oh, it's okay. Was there anybody in MMA or pro wrestling that you ever saw their skill set at, like, maybe as an MMA fighter, and you thought they would make a good pro wrestler, or vice versa? You saw a pro wrestler and maybe did something with them and thought maybe they could do better in MMA than they are in their wrestling career.
Oh no, yeah, yes. I've run across people that in the amateur wrestling world that they have a bigger than life personality, and I think it's you're a good wrestler, but really average wrestler, there's still winning the amateur wrestling. That's the sad part. That's a sport that is probably the most dearest to my heart, but it's tough to make a livelihood with it. So jumping into the wacko of professionals, of course, between my cage fighting career and my professional career and my amateur career, my professional career paid the best. I'm almost ashamed to say that, but at the same time, that's the pure fact of it all.
Also, before I let you go, what other projects do you have going on? I know I see your website, and actually, as I pulled it up, I saw that iconic image that I remembered from my childhood of you holding the NWA and UFC titles. I think that's pretty cool. But what other stuff do you have going on?
Well, the website to check it out right now at Dan7.com, and it needs a lot of upgrade. There's just so many things that I just don't have the time to get around to doing. There's that's to get upgraded. I want to put my actual athletic resume up on there just to realize, the things that I've bragged about to you already are just the tip of the iceberg. Legitimately, I have over 100 state, national, and/or international titles and/or records. I don't think there's anyone else that's close to me. And that's between folk style wrestling. Folk style wrestling is what we do here in the United States. Freestyle wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling, and what we do internationally, and what the rest of the world does. I've done all three. I've done stuff at Sambo, which is a Russian form of judo, or lifting with some leg locks, stuff like that. I've done judo, but then I've done jumped into the tough big contest, and I've done my professional wrestling. I've done my mixed martial arts. So, I've had people ask me, I said, do you know how many masters you have? I go, not really. I mean, it would probably be easy to do someday if I had nothing better to do to finally tabulate it up. But to give you an idea, in my junior year in high school, I back it up a little more. I'm one of 8 kids. I would have never thought of asking my parents for money to go to college because it was not there to have. And I already saw that by my sophomore year, I was already getting the attention of some college coaches that were throwing out little tidbits in here and stuff like this. Of maybe partial scholarships, stuff like this. I go, how do I get some more attention? And so by my junior year, one day I went in and big tournament that takes place. I went in. The high school age group is called junior. It's basically 18 years and younger category. So I went junior age group, 3 weight classes, 198, 220 heavy. Now, you can't do this now, but back then the rules were different. But then I went into the next age bracket up, which was called open, and it did over 18 years of age, 3 weight classes, 198, 220 heavyweight. So most gymnasiums only hold 3 men. So when they would call up the junior category, they would have 198, 220 heavyweight, on all 3 mats taking place. So literally, I would be wrestling on mat number 1. They'd be calling me on deck for mat number 2 and in the hole for mat number 3. And by the time they call you to report to the mat, you had 5 minutes to report before you would be disqualified. So literally, I'd be on mat number 1, had to pin this guy to get to mat number 2, to pin that guy to get to mat number 3 before the time would run out. But to add that all up, one day, 2 age categories, 6 weight classes, 17 matches later, I walked out of that gymnasium with 6 gold medals. And I caught the attention of college wrestling coaches and managers. I thought, we need to check out this guy. And when I graduated basically in 76, I was the number 1 most included recruit in the United States. And I had the academics to go along with it. So the analogy of that, the dumb job, it's there quite a bit, but not in my category.
So are you still doing, you mentioned you're still doing speaking engagements. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how people can...
Well, I'd say just go to the website, because the website has the emails, it has an office number, but I just tell people emailing me is the best. And because of my preparation for this upcoming show and stuff like this, emails, phone calls, text messages, you name it, whatever, smoke signals, everything is piled up. That's all most people. I probably get back to you in April. Because there's just too much stuff that's come up, and to me it's like my priorities, I have my priorities straight of what I need to do and what needs to get done. And I like to put out the best product that I possibly can.
Well, Dan, I want to
I hope to be rocking the darker, iconic mustache once again.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I loved hearing. I can't wait to watch this show on the 20th as well. It's going to be very interesting.
Anyone else that's really listening and they have interest in checking out this wild, crazy show that's taking place, go to the initials URShow.tv. URShow.tv, and that's their website, and it will show you if you indicate there where you can get tickets, where it's being held at, Celebrity Theater, or if you want to just order it up on internet pay-per-view, and I think it's a very nominal fee of what they're charging for the internet pay-per-view. It's a company that's trying to do something totally different than what has ever been done before, and it is. If you think about trying to find a state that will allow 4 different styles of action, all to take place in the same ring, that's crazy. And there's another card on top of that.
Indeed, very affordable too. I checked out the pricing on it earlier. I definitely encourage everybody to check that out. Dan, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.